What is up, everybody? So some more news continues to come out in the Menendez brothers case. This article is from Vanity Fair and was posted yesterday on October 14th, 2024, and it's about a press conference that appears is scheduled to take place tomorrow on October the 16th, 2024. Now, the article is linked in the description below. Let's see what it has to say. The campaign to free Eric and Lyle Menendez is gaining momentum. A source close to the case says that a large number of Eric and Lyle Menendez's extended family will be in Los Angeles for a press conference at the Clara Shortridge Foltz Criminal Justice Center courthouse this Wednesday, tomorrow. The brothers' aunt, Joan Vandermolen, told Vanity Fair that they were invited by LA County District Attorney George Gascon, G-A-S-C-O-N. It's unclear if Gascon will attend the press conference himself, but it's the family's hope that he will recommend that the brothers be resentenced after 34 years in custody. If the DA were to recommend a revised sentence, a judge would then preside over a hearing. Gascon did not respond to Vanity Fair's request for comment, but a source with knowledge of the situation believe that the DA will make an announcement about resentencing in the next few weeks. Now, I read another article recently, and I can't find the actual article, but it did talk about how there is something also scheduled for the end of November regarding resentencing of the Menendez brothers as well. I don't know if this is the same thing and they just moved up the timeline, or if these are two separate events. But there is a lot of news coming out recently about the Menendez brothers possibly being resentenced and even being set free, depending on what that resentencing is. There are other things they could be resentenced to that they already spent, and they have already spent enough time in prison that their sentence would be done and they would be set free. Eric and Lyle have spent decades in jail without the possibility of parole. They were convicted in 1996 of murdering their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez. Now, the prosecution said it was out of greed, but the defense said it was because the boys were being molested by their father and they feared for their lives. The Menendez brothers case first roared back to life on TikTok during the pandemic when Court TV re-released all of its episodes of the first trial, and people got to see everything in essentially real time, but real time something that happened decades ago, about how everything was done in the first trial. Gascon, that's the DA, appears to have solid grounds to recommend that the Menendez brothers be resentenced should he be inclined. Under Penal Code 1172.1, the DA can consider whether someone who is convicted suffered pre-conviction psychological trauma or physical abuse, if they were given a harsh sentence compared to other cases, and whether or not they could be considered a threat to society. The point of resentencing is to help undo the crazy things that happened in the 90s, said Menendez's attorney, Mark Greagos. Eric and Lyle's first trial, during which sexual abuse testimony was admitted, resulted in hung juries. Judge Stanley Weisberg wouldn't allow the brothers' attorney, Leslie Abramson, to present evidence that they were molested in the second trial. A lot of people believe that if that was allowed in the second trial, it would have resulted in another hung jury or possibly even a not guilty verdict. In May of 2023, the Menendez brothers attorney and Cliff Gardner, who also represents the Menendez brothers, notified the district attorney that they believe there is new evidence in the case, most strikingly a letter that Eric allegedly wrote to his cousin, Andy Cono, in which he says he was still being raped by his father 8 months before the murders, along with a statement by former Menudo band member Roy Rosello, R-O-S-E-L-L-O, saying that he was drugged and raped by Jose when he was 13 or 14 years old. At a press conference on October 3rd, Gascon said that he hadn't made up his mind yet whether or not the brothers' sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole should be reconsidered. We are reviewing the new information, but I think it's also important to recognize that both men and women can be victims of sexual assault. Now remember, the first two trials, even though it wasn't allowed in the second trial, the first two trials took place in the 90s when it wasn't really a thing where people understood that men could also be sexually assaulted. It wasn't something you ever really heard talked about, or if you did, it wasn't very mainstream. Didn't make headlines. And over the years, we've come to learn that that is just as big a possibility as anything else. When Gascon ran for DA in 2019, he promised to make the justice system more just. He's currently in a tight re-election race against Nathan Hochman. Voting will take place on November the 5th. According to Joan Vandermolen, that is the boy's aunt, Eric and Lyle are aware that the press conference is taking place. She says that Eric called his cousin Kenny from prison late last week to urge her to find someone to cover for her at work so she could be present at the courthouse. Vandermolen has been standing by her nephews since their arrest in 1990 and is nervous about what the family will hear from the district attorney. What if it's not that they'll be released? She asked this reporter on Saturday. It seems unlikely that the DA would ask a 92-year-old with constant back pain to travel over an hour to Los Angeles only to say that he thinks her nephews should spend the rest of their lives in prison. That's a solid point. Why would they invite the family if it's just going to be, hey, screw you, they're guilty, they're spending the rest of their lives in prison? They would just announce that on their own, you would assume, without inviting Eric and Lyle Menendez's family there. So it's going to be very interesting to see what comes out of this press conference tomorrow. It doesn't have a time here saying that when this press conference is going to happen, but you can believe that it's going to be covered by probably every news outlet around. It's going to be a very big story. But what do you think? What do you think the district attorney, if he shows up at this press conference, is going to state? Or if the press conference that I saw somewhere earlier taking place at the end of November is the one where they're going to be announced the resentencing? And if that is the case, what exactly is this press conference about tomorrow? It's not exactly clear. So I'm very interested to see what takes place. What do you think? Are the boys innocent? Are they guilty? Was their crime justified? It's a horrible situation all around. What do you think? Let me know. Leave some comments below. I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you again soon.